Hello, everybody. Welcome to Recite here at the Norman Williams Public Library. Today is Tuesday, November 6th. It is Election Day, and it is raining, and I think those two things have an effect on the sparsity of us here, but I'm glad we are all here, stalwart poet lovers. And have you not voted yet? Because they're open till 7. You could do that and come back. You'd be later on the list.
In fact, you'd prefer if I left to vote.
No, it's only open till 7. By the time we finish, it will be over. So if you need to slip out and do that thing, it's just take care of your business. That's fine. I went in the library here in the poetry section, and I just started picking out people. And I picked out Angela Jackson. I've never read Angela Jackson before. This book is called It Seems Like a Mighty Long Time. She's, I didn't look up her whole biography and things, but she is a poet. She lives in Chicago. She's been publishing works since 1974, but she still lives in Chicago. So it's a really interesting, gripping book of poetry on all sorts of topics, and there's weight and heft to them. And on this sort of weighty, hefty election day, cloudy, rainy, weighty election day, it sort of seemed like it fit. So I'm just going to read a few, one every now and then. So let's see. This is called The Scarf. Infants you must take care with, the soft spot in the middle of the head. Hold them just so, like cupping a priceless vase. The mouth open to contain mysteries, the grains of remains of a loved ancestor. Some women, some men, you must take care with. We are so easily misled. It's the soft spot in the middle of the head. Dreamers, give us a hint, a subtlety, a half-spoken promise. All this sufficient to weave a bliss that floats out of that soft spot in the middle of the head. Believe me, I will never change. I will always be a baby who smiles during a dream, my skull tender as a veil, a scrim between one world and another. Now I will float a dream like a question in a comic book, and hope a hand to hold it firm and work hard, an honest heart. Believe me, I know the difference now between ignorance and bliss. A dream grows up and protects the soft spot in the middle of the head. A lie dies and longs to live, but there is nothing it has to give. All this knowing comes from having been misled before I began wearing all day and to bed a scrutinizing scarf over the soft spot in the middle of my heart and another over my head.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing stuff? Okay. And to start things off, Peter Fox-Smith, would you like to start us off?
I'll give it a go.
Okay.
All right.
You know, since there's so few of us here, it might be kind of fun if we had, just because like that poem was so neat and immediately brought back a poem by David Good Tucker to me.
Oh, really?
About in every moment there's a trapdoor in which bliss exists, or I forget what it was, but it was wonderful to have you bring him back, and two, that since we've had just a new baby in our family, not my family but my brother's family, you know, it was a little bit shocking to think of comparing that vulnerability to a vase. I mean, how can you compare a baby to a vase? But she goes on, and she really does bring a magic to, you know, that veil between ignorance and bliss is, she really had it part, and it was just a beautiful moment here, because I think that is what we're about. Do you know, we're trying to bring moments of bliss into a world that's just perpetuating ignorance as fast as it can. So thanks, Danelle.
And I liked the soft spot in the head and the soft spot in the heart.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Bliss and dreams and waking. And
That's
there's
right.
a lot of cool imagery in that poem, I think.
Yeah, so
And-
thanks. Not to take away from you, Peter, because...
No, it's okay. We don't have to crank through. We can sort of savor each bit.
And this way we can comment as our heart moves us after your poetry.
Well, Peter didn't bring any bliss tonight.
That's all right.
No philosophical poems tonight. I have a friend who passed away recently. We'd gone to graduate school together, and he was living in Burlington. And one of my neighbors happened to go to the function that he was present at and was introduced. They met, never had met before. And she asked my friend asked her, my neighbor, is Peter Fox Smith still writing those naughty poems? So I'm sharing very simplistic, naughty poems with you tonight. As I said, nothing philosophical. Dinner party voices for a virgin. Dinner is served, the bell proclaimed, and our hostess, severely unnerved, almost died. Potatoes apace, beans overdone, salad sunk in a sea of vinaigrette, and up in his room, her Don Juan son was seducing the virgin serving girl he had just met. Recently, he had become engaged. The serving girl is underage, and our hostess raged in the kitchen with the cook. Jesus Christ, now what will I do, she thought, as she poured herself another scotch. Relax, lady. Everything's okay. The wine is fine, the beef was rare, and the dessert, angel food cake a la Pierre, crowned the day. Relax, lady, your party was fun. There is no need to fret by compare with a virgin serving girl flat beneath your Don Juan son, next smoldering heaps of underwear, rustling a cosmic cause by now, probably forever undone. My wife follows the news much more assiduously than I do. But that means if I'm in the same room, I hear it. And I heard one night something that really struck me about women getting silicone injections for increased breasts. And very quickly, and this is one of the few poems that I have ever written where it just came out and there was never a word revision. It was just done. Poor Penny. Poor Penny was flat-chested to the point of despair, fearing men would never love her because she had nothing there. She went to a doctor who injected silicone, then spent the whole night long serving her his bone until the morning sun rose and time for her to leave. Said the doctor, "Stay a little longer, oh Penny, won't you please?" "I really must go now," Penny did declare, "but thanks for the memories." Thanks for laughing. Gaudiamus, as you know, Let Us Rejoice from the Latin, subtitled In Flagrante Delicto, or Caught in the Act. Marion is married and Edward engaged. Her husband's furious, his fiancée enraged, for they discovered the very moment when Edward had a decided upright bent aimed precisely at Marion's fundament. Were I a girl pretty with curves, I'd make an assault on masculine nerves. Décolletage, sheer shirt, no underwear, legs that flirt. If I was a girl pretty with curves, I'd make an assault on masculine nerves. Shimmering rear, no brassiere, erotic back rubs, naked hot tubs. I'd make an assault on masculine nerves if I was a girl pretty with curves. Dressing for men to turn their head and leave a vacancy within their wife's bed, with luring lips, gyrating hips, and eyes that won't sit still. All of me says, you bet I will. If I was a girl pretty with curves, I'd love to inflame masculine nerves, 'cause days when I could soon are gone, and I would awake shivering cold, of a sudden grown quite old, but glad I'd been bad when bad was so good. I told you there was no bliss tonight.
It just sounded like bliss there.
Spring cleaning at Harriet's. Compulsive cleaning doth churn vacuums. Harriet cleans for keeps while Harvey sleeps. No time to screw until spring cleaning is through. Get up and keep your penis in your pants, she rants. So what is he to do? Sweep and dust? Absolute musts this time of year, because Harriet can't relax and spread her legs until windows are washed and floors are waxed. Oh, in time she'll doff her clothes and come to bed. But alas, by that time, poor Harvey will be dead. You have to know for the next poem that syncope is a word used by pronunciation mavens to indicate the absence of a sound or two from the middle of a word. And we're not going to get this unless I get the second page.
Can you give us an example?
Yes, I'm going to. There are 2 pages here, believe me. Ah, got them. I guess I don't have them. Yes, I do. So, an example of syncope, grocery is the right pronunciation, but most people say grocery. And there's a sound left out of the middle. What was wrong with Walt, according to Karen? Karen and Walt were lovers. Emphasize the were because it's all over. Walt ruins words. For idea, he says idea, and when Karen corrected him, he didn't even care. For library, he says library, but never's been in. He's an expert at syncope, saying grocery and family and warrior and diaper. And some say that's okay, but chocolate for chocolate, opera for opera, mayonnaise for mayonnaise, no way. Walt says nuclear for nuclear, coupon for coupon, gala for gala, gazebo for gazebo, gondola for gondola, patina for patina, and when Karen corrects him, he exhibits disdain. He's heard of Tom Sawyer, but never read Twain. And for Walt, Rocky means the movies, not the coast of Maine. But the last straw, if you can imagine this, while making love to Karen, caressing with a kiss, Walt said clitoris for her clitoris. I have one more that I saved that is not naughty. It's for this time of year because Thanksgiving has always been.
Did Walt at least supply the missing syllable?
What have you in mind?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just got images.
Thanksgiving has always been my favorite holiday. Thanksgiving was a holiday we Americans much revered till Christmas awoke in October and Thanksgiving disappeared. In December, I'll get back to my philosophical poems.
No, that was good. Thank you very much. Diversity is good. It's also interesting to hear different people's, versions and perspectives on different things. A man saying, if I was a woman, what would I be like? It's a very interesting thing. It's a man's version of what a woman is. It's kind of interesting. So I'm trying to think of what poem I could, maybe, let's see. Should I do a poem now, or should I just? So here's one. This, I haven't sat with it long enough to understand all of it. Not that I ever would, but I'm reading Angela Jackson, and I've never read her before. I said that before. And this one, she mentions Aretha Franklin quite a bit in here, and I kind of like it. It's called American Justice. No one has told you that it hurts to be bound and gagged like Bobby Seale in the courtroom of the once Chicago 8, then Chicago 7. And I am very much a woman. I sing because I am not free. I sing because I hurt to be bound so long you have forgotten who I am and who I used to be and what I stand for. I ask you, are you surprised by what you see in a lopsided land? I couldn't say. I may be 26, but I'm an old woman in disguise, Aretha said then, and she was right. So I'm singing to you from the heart. Till the door closes on me in a dream of a man encased in a bubble above my head like lines of conversation in a comic strip. I ask you, are you surprised by what you see in a lopsided land? I will sing for you as when I was 25, 1,000 bound years ago. There's a reason why Aretha drives her voice like a car. a pink Cadillac with the top down. Close your eyes and see a star over a dusty city. Outlines of lives filled in smoke, concrete. And you cruise through decades and feel unbound with the top rolled down. There's a history hidden in Aretha's voice. The quick river we crossed, the turbulence in the air, the freedom riders riding, the fire next time, out of a south of children hungry, dancing before a shotgun shack, singing, "Look in my eyes, what do you see? Surprise, surprise, you just like me." I see more of that. I see more than that, in all shades. But I couldn't say. That's how they paid me for speaking up. And my voice flew away from me on its own, then came back wiser to me. I remembered how Nat Turner lay down in a field and saw visions as a gift from God alone. And I knew what love was and is, and loss going down slowly. Grace is a gift I can never see. It comes to us threaded through the eye of a needle. I am a poor woman. I am queen of my soul. I sing because God made me, and I sing because I am not free. Applause travels like rain and may pass over me, but my song comes back, home to sit in my own chest after I pour it on you like sunshine or sorrow you already know, traveling like mercies to console you. I can put it on you till you start to mumbling your troubles, eyes surprised to see what you see in a lopsided land. When I sing like an old woman with a flowing spring in her voice, a healing touch, I'll know you understand when you take my trembling, trembling hand, and it is still. So, yeah, I like it better the second time I read it. Okay, so let's see.
Got another?
For later. Just a little bit.
Later.
Yep. Bob, would you like to go next?
I'd rather wait.
You'd rather wait. Richard? You good? Okay. Richard Estee.
Oh, thank you.
Last month I recited Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas, and I neglected to mention the reason I had chosen it is because his birthday was October 27th. And so I'm doing another Dylan Thomas poem for November because he died in November 9th, 1953, so 65 years ago. And this one is Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, which is a poem written for his father. His father was ill. His father had not died yet, but his father was ill. And of course, there's a story that says that when Dylan was still in his mother's womb, his father used to read Shakespeare to him. So I guess it's a true story, I don't know. So he was poetical before birth. So anyway, do not go gentle into that good night. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right. Because, let's see, though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last way by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce prayers, fierce tears I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And then continuing the happy theme of death, from almost every time I come, I check the used bookshelf in the lobby. And what do you know, last month, October 2013 Poetry Magazine. And there's always some treasures. I'm too cheap to buy the magazine, so I have a lot of used copies, and people are always getting rid of them for much less than the originals. And I saw a poem by a poet named Craig Arnold, born November 16th, 1967. And I had also taken out of the library a bread loaf anthology, I think put together around 2000, the year 2000, and some of Craig Arnold's poems were in there because he had been at Bread Loaf several times. He was a professor somewhere, I think maybe Wyoming, maybe. Anyway, in 2009, at the age of 42, he and his girlfriend, whatever she was, were vacationing on an island, a Japanese island that has an active volcano. And one morning quite early, he said, I'm going for a hike, which is, he often went hiking by himself, and he disappeared, never came back. The Japanese authorities have a certain number of days that they will search for a lost person, then they give up. They double that amount of time, and they found some tracks near a cliff, but not at the real edge. So they don't know how or why he disappeared. But in this little poetry magazine, there is one poem of his that I really like. It's called Mulberry. You have towered here, leaning half over the wall, all my awareness, years before I knew what silkworm was or china. I felt your berries, pulp under my feet, tracked your purple all over grandmother's carpet. A sapling planted by some sea captain to make shade for a future. This winter, you lost one of your long, low branches to a backed-up car, and the old woman who has known you all her life wept at the split wood. Your bark is wrinkled more deeply than any face. You live so slowly. Do our voices sound to you like the fluttering of paper moth wings? Do we seem rootless, holding fast to the anchor of the saddest things? And then I have a couple of poems that I wrote myself earlier this summer. As you know, the poet Donald Hall died this summer in June, I think, sometime, at the age of 89. And he had lived for many years, since the 70s, I think, in Wilmot, New Hampshire, at the property where he visited as a child when his grandparents owned it. And first, I'm going to do a haiku as a summary of Donald Hall's life. Poet Donald Hall died here at Eagle Pond Farm, Mount Kearsarge, still blue. And his wife's name was Jane Kenyon. She was also a well-known poet. And one of her last collections was known as Otherwise. So I think of Donald Hall as a wise other. The week following the death of Donald Hall, I spent reading and rereading a wide selection of his poems by him and his late wife, Jane Kenyon. It might have been otherwise. Then, out of moving curiosity, I searched on Realtor.com in the vicinity of Wilmot, New Hampshire, for a farmhouse with a view of Mount Kearsarge from the kitchen sink window. It might have been otherwise. I marvel at the latitude and luxury of knowing from age 14 that Hall wanted to be a poet, and then directed all his energy and education to that goal. It certainly was otherwise for me. Then I thought how it might be to totter into his 89th year, still farming the universe of verse and vision for song and sensation. I am sure it will be otherwise for me. And then then Donald Hall wrote a selection of poems in memory of Jane. She died in 95. The selection came out in 98 called Without. So I'm saying, what did he come out with? So, thanks to poet Donald Hall, we will never be without Chester Ludlow's larger-than-life small-town tales. We will never be without the radiant warmth of the Glenwood in January. We will never be without golden daffodils dancing around gray family gravestones. Thanks to Donald Hall, we will never be without luminous raindrops, bejeweling pungent pink peonies. We will never be without hermit thrush and bullfrogs singing on summer evenings. We will never be without frosty maple red October mornings. Thanks to Donald Hall, we will never be without the ox and the laden cart with the man walking alongside. Even though Donald Hall lies in and from his grave, we will never be without his lurid lust for life. Now, I have one extemporaneous poem that I want to read if I'm not over time. Okay.
No way.
No way.
No idea, you're fine.
I subscribe to Poem a Day on my phone, and so every morning get a new poem. And this one is called Feast, Green, and Stain by Paul Cunningham. So every once in a while, one poem clicks, and this one clicked for me in today's poem. Feast, Green, and Stain, Paul Cunningham. I am wasted on thought-sos and photo-ops, so-sos and SOS cries, and the lit flare. I intuit, I should say. I follow your light. Look at the way you go into the tall grass. Into it, you light, you moth. Look at your shirtless body behind the tall grass. Look at me on my knees. My knees. A poem is a lot like a grass stain. I want to do what a grass stain does. Those last two lines I really like. A poem is a lot like a grass stain. I want to do what a grass stain does. What does a grass stain do? Something to think about, isn't it? Thank you.
That's a really cool image. Okay, so Yash can go next, and then we'll take a little break.
What does a grass stain do? Well, it kind of disrupts. It means you've fallen.
Makes an everlasting impression that's hard to get rid of.
Okay, but there's a lot more. I mean,
And a lot more than that, but that's sort of like...
Somehow something is, you don't set out to get grass stains. And it's like, oh, so something has disrupted your day that you didn't suspect, like Robert Frost, that snow falling on his neck that saved the day. But it's also of nature, so it's really cool.
And a grass stain doesn't just happen when you're walking down the sidewalk or even just walking in a field, something has to actually happen. You fall or you kneel down, or so there's some kind of story involved in how you got the grass stain too.
And a poem is a lot like a grass stain.
And boy, next time I get a grass stain, I'm going to think about it. All right.
You have to be careful though, because a grass stain can ruin something of value.
But you know what? Talk about a grass stain. One of the most beautiful songs in all the world is from a grass stain. Green Sleeves. That's...
That tune, yeah.
Think about it. Wow. And that said, gosh, I'm so grateful. I can almost cry for your being here, and if anybody's actually listening. But okay. But do share all the poets you mentioned, because I feel like Donald Hall that to a certain extent, there's part of the immortal soul that says, anybody remember me? Am I still part of that crazy dualistic world? And I feel there is an audience that is a part of this this gathering. And I say that especially because as I thought, gee, I only have 2 poems to share tonight. And I thought, of course not. I've had something very, very fundamental happen in my life, and I have a poem about it. And that very, very fundamental thing that has happened in my life is my mother died in October 8th. And so thanks for introducing that theme. She was a beautiful woman, and she becomes more beautiful in memory and recollection. She did not rage necessarily. I was there with her death and her passing. And it was very beautiful. She had a deep faith, and she had to be specific, she had a perforated colon, which is very, septic shock's going to set in, and we did not want doctors going in and butchering her flesh and everything, so we decided we would be with her. And she recognized people in her pain, and there was never any moping, but she did pray very fervently, sometimes out loud, "Oh God, take away this pain. Oh God, take away this pain." And it was as if she was going to get an answer, or he had to deny his own words of "Seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be open to you." She was knocking on that door, and ultimately, as it is in today's world, she was given enough pain medication or however, but it was a very beautiful passing, and I'm very grateful for that palliative care center, because it was time, outside of the emergency room that was chaotic and horrible. People didn't know what was going on. And anyway, that Jack Byrne Palliative Care Center was a very peaceful place to go. So anyway, that happened. And when one's mother passes away, I'm sure you've had this experience, some of you, you've really got to come to grips with, what am I doing here? Anyway, because I wrestle with spiritual questions through writing poems, I did happen to write a poem, so I'll share that with you. All right, so in memory, my mother has passed. I got to get rid of this emotion. Yeah, all right. Well, I want to be clear, because I'm happy about this poem, because it helped me resolve her passing. My mother has passed. An eternal veil has parted. Mourn and weep. but not for long. She wants you to grow, to be glorious. Let it be this passing. The future calls. How can your mother die? Is she not here? Does she... Want to read it?
You want me to read it?
I can't read. I don't seem to be able to.
That's okay. I'm gonna do it sideways so I can get bigger, so my eyes. Thank you for letting me do this. This is. I'll start back from the beginning. In memory. My mother has passed. An eternal veil has parted. Mourn and weep, but not for long. She wants you to grow, to be glorious. Let it be this passing. The future calls. How can your mother die? Is she not here? Does she not hold the mirror for the light that beckons, that draws into selflessness? Come now, say, I am, for you have freedom to laugh and love and play and joy. Believe in her pure delight of your innocence. My mother has not passed. She is with me here. Begone now, sorrow. Begone, lament. This is her poem. Yes, a flag in the breeze, waving now between the past and the future. May I read the dedication?
Sure.
Dedicated to the memory of my earthly mother, Sarah Ellen Hayes Dembinski, May 17th, 1931 to October 8th, 2018.
I have two other poems, but I'll gather myself.
Do you want to do them after
Yeah.
intermission?
Yeah, that sounds good.
After the break?
Yeah.
Intermission sounds so formal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a break. There's wine, there's water, there's restrooms.
It's all right. She's
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I don't have much to say. Actually, I will reiterate what Yash said about this. We have this book, and it was Yash's idea, and I think it's a very good one. It's this cute little book that has little clips and everything, and a ribbon, which makes me happy. And there's a different page for each day of Recite that we do. And so this is today's. And after Yash talked about it, I went back up and said that I read Angela Jackson poems. I put that down there. If you're reading, if you're not reading, if you just want to like put something on here, some reflection, something about being here tonight, whatever, you know, it's kind of a fun little thing. This lives in the library here behind the circulation desk, so no one has to remember to bring it. But also, if you ever want to come and look at it at the past things, you can. So I think here in the second half, we're going to have Yash has some more poetry to do, and then Bob has some poetry, and then Gavin has some poetry. And I might throw another Angela Jackson in there somewhere, but you're welcome. But not right now. We'll start with Yash.
all right. Thanks for the break. This is really kind of neat because I have a little story to tell in light of my mother's passing. I really have been enjoying listening to Florence and the Machine. And she has red hair, and my mother's nickname was Rusty because she had kind of red hair as well. And I kind of, I like the interesting merging, you know, she has a lot of kind of pseudo-Catholic lyrics, and I'm always trying to kind of fathom what she's getting at. Anyway, a very interesting thing happened. I got this little email saying, you're entitled to there's been a class action settlement against Ticketmaster, and you're entitled to $2.50 off of a ticket or something like that. So I was like, $2.50, how ridiculous. But instead of just deleting the email, I was like, well, I wonder what's Ticketmaster has to offer. And I went, and like one of the first things I saw was a concert for Florence and the Machine. So I thought, I haven't been to a concert since 1981. What the heck, man? Let's do it. So anyway, I bought tickets for Florence and the Machine with this notion that if my mother had been a rock star, she might have been like Florence. And lo and behold, my mother dies. And the next weekend is Florence and the Machine concert. I was like, all right, I'm not going to that. But anyway, because of circumstances, we had to have the funeral service the following week. So we went to Florence and the Machine. And why I say that is because I want to share one of the lyrics from one of Florence's songs instead of, I was going to share more of Moses and Israel, but we don't have to do that. Because I love this song because it just shows the importance of being a poet. Because listen to these lyrics. And the song is, all this in heaven too. And the heart is hard to translate. It has a language of its own. It talks in tongues and quiet sighs, and prayers and proclamations in the grand days of great men, and the smallest of gestures in short, shallow gasps. But with all my education, I can't seem to commend it, and the words are all escaping me and come backing all damage. And I would put them back in poetry if I only knew how. I can't seem to understand it. And I would give all this and heaven too. I would give it all, if only for a moment, that I could just understand the meaning of the word you see, because I've been scrawling it forever, but it never makes sense to me at all. And it talks to me in tiptoes and sings to me inside. It cries out in the darkest night and breaks in the morning light. But with all my education, I can't seem to commend it, and the words are all escaping and coming back all damaged. And I would put them back in poetry if I only knew how. I can't seem to understand it, and I would give all this, and heaven too. I would give it all, if only for a moment, that I could just understand the meaning of the word you see. Because I've been scrawling it forever, but it never makes sense to me at all. And I would give all this in heaven too. I would give it all, if only for a moment, that I could just understand the meaning of the word you see. Because I've been scrawling it forever, but it never makes sense to me at all. No, words are a language. It doesn't deserve such treatment. And all my stumbling phrases never amounted to anything worth this feeling. All this heaven never could describe such a feeling as I'm healing. Words were never so useful. So I was screaming out a language that I never knew existed before. And if you know the song, it is beautiful.
What's the name of the song?
All this in heaven too. Now,
May I interrupt and show my ignorance
sure.
for a moment?
Sure.
Because I live solely and exclusively in the world of classical music and classical poetry.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Florence.
All right.
Could you tell me?
Well,
What
should I
Florence
play a
is?
little bit of the song?
Sure.
All right. Here we go. I mean, as I said, before my mother died, I was like, my mother might be like Florence if she wanted to be a rock star, because Florence she's lovely.
So she is a rock star.
She is a rock star, a current one, by the way. All right, I'll find it.
Speaks for many of us who are not familiar.
All right, I will play this because it's easy to play.
You're your own rock star.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
You
now-
gonna write that in the book? Or?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool, good.
She's here. I mean, it would be pretty cool if I were Florence and I was like, hey, somebody showed her this, this little gathering that's like rejoicing in her poetry and her being, I think she's had a bit of a tough life, haven't most people? All right, last poem, a sonnet. For all that concert, it was packed an hour and a half, and people were holding hands, and she was wonderful. But I thought to myself on the way back, I get more lift from trying to fathom and ultimately fathoming, getting a Rilke poem, because Rilke's sonnets, they like, you read them and you go, what the heck is he talking about? But when you begin to reflect, it's almost as if they have this magical quality of bringing you up into a transcendent awareness. So I thought I get more out of a Rilke sonnet than out of a whole Florence and the Machine concert. Sorry, Florence. But that's the truth. That's who I am. And this is the poem, I think it's the 5th or 6th, I don't know what. It goes like this. And this is a sonnet dedicated to Orpheus, okay? And in the this might help you unravel it a little bit. Krishna would say of all of his devotees, to the extent they are devotees of me, they are myself. In other words, and there was a Paramahansa Yogananda used to call Christ and Krishna Christna. And so to a certain extent, people are devotees, really devotees, sincerely devotees, past Bob's muster of Christ. Christ is within them, simple as that. Orpheus, the singer transcendent, this is a poet offering a poem to Orpheus and to the extent that he becomes Orpheus, and we as the readers too become Orpheus, so we're all Orpheus at some point if I can recite this poem and shut up. Here we go. Does he belong here? No. Out of both realms his wide nature grew. More knowing would he bend the willow's branches, who has experienced the willow's roots. Going to bed, leave on the table no bread and no milk. It draws the dead. But he, the conjurer, let him under the eyelids' mildness mix their appearance into everything seen. And may the magic of earth smoke and rue be to him as true as the clearest relation. Nothing can harm for him the valid symbol, be it from graves, be it from rooms. Let him praise, finger ring, clasp, and jug. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Yash. It is interesting, the themes and things, and the whole, we were reflecting on other people's poems, so I'll just be a little self-indulgent here and tell you, I visited my mother last week. She's in her mid-80s, and she's starting to dive into dementia just a little bit, and so it was a moving thing for me to read the poem about your mother. And my mom is also a musician, and she happens to have been born the same year as Tina Turner. And when Tina Turner was in her 60s, and she was still up on the stage in a leather skirt, I used to talk to Mom and say, hey, Mom, you, Tina, same age, you could be doing this. Anyway, so I have this thing between Tina Turner and my mom. My mom would never go up on stage and sing. She's a piano player. It's a whole different thing. But anyway, anyway, I get a lot from that. So And I've totally lost my place. Why don't I read another one of Angela Jackson's poems, and that'll bring us back into poetry and stop my rambling. This is called Sleep. I know the names and bodies of certain trees. Catalpa, with its monkey cigars, white-barked birch, tree of heaven that stinks on high. I know the shape of my nephew's back going down the alley. I know who he is not. I earned an education. Books opened their spines to me, spread their leaves, and spoke in seductive whispers. I recognize blue jays, cardinals, parrots, red-winged blackbirds dipping in the sky, raucous crows, and corporate pigeons that stain the sidewalks of concrete divided by the cracks I do not step on lest I break my mother's back, which does not break. I've known spiders, clever and kind or malevolent. I learned manners, to say please, thank you, and you are welcome, even when you are not. To open doors and hold them open for others, to follow through. I learned to defer. I clothed my nakedness. I wash dishes when I have to, and dust when I must. I am still inside when I do duties. I know the meaning of money. I learned the shadow side of good people, the worst side of bad people. I have heard voices. I am myself and someone else yet to be. I know the names of too many movie stars and too few heavenly bodies. I burped no babies that were my own, only borrowed for hungry joy. I traveled back to Africa and to islands in between. I was a tourist in a grand dream. I gained and lost my weight in gold. I sat at windows, waiting for my story to unfold down the avenue like an intelligent spirit ahead of me. I walked on blackberries, fallen free on the street of memory, on walnuts and coats in the park near the dark lagoon where the brave geese dwell. I've watched wars on television, seen floods and the sodden aftermath of floods. I watched love hide his face from me. I heard rumors, inklings. If I should die before I wake, I'll miss what it occurs to me did not occur to me. Okay, so now we have Bob Burgess.
Florence and the Machine makes me remember a song that I love that maybe some of you other old uns may remember. It was called And This Is What This Is About. So this is about a boy from New York City. Anyone remember that song? Rhythm. Da, 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 da. Okay. But it is about a boy from New York City. Once upon a time, long, long ago, before the winter of my discontent, I'll never forget how you came up to me out of nowhere, it seemed, from some undiscovered country, with your strong bones and wind-stained eyes that once in a never morning, and told me in no uncertain tones at all how it was that you and I were only a child years old when we looked straight at each other when we held hands as I rolled the wet dirt and squeezed you through my fingers and really did smell all the flowers you asked me to. Me coming here to this greenhouse after all the cities of my youth and listening to you instruct me about the ways of the earth, telling me with trees and leaves in your eyes about, of all things, the country. As if you owned all of it locked up right there in your pastoral bosom. Telling me how it really was better than my neon background, and me believing you, and really wishing I'd grown up somewhere else than those steaming New York streets, that I too, like you, could ride horses and learn to love things green, even if they did have all those damn bugs in them, and jump around farms and barns for the rest of my time, hoping, with all of whatever was left of my armored heart, that you would never stop dancing in our garden of childhood and not be afraid of my loud traffic ways, since I already breathe in your air, sleep in your stars, and dare my steel motors to challenge me here, where I climb through your clouds and your trees and your country smile. Hope springs eternal. So I did a lot of Shakespeare as a young actor.
Oh, the poem isn't continuing, is it?
It all continues, but I thank you for the applause.
I'm sorry.
I love it. Clap anytime you feel like
It's been amazing so far. Sorry.
I like to tie them together so there's their theme, but I am now into my next poem. So thank you. So I did do, Yash, a lot of Shakespeare as a young actor and a kid. Didn't know what the hell I was talking about, though I sure thought that I did. Now that I'm older and dirt, Gavin. Now that I'm older and dirt, I get how much of what Shakespeare wrote really fits. So for all you other old farts in the audience, whoever you are, with a little help from Willie, here's a little tidbit. I think it's time to stop fooling around. The franchise of youth is over. Our revels now are ended. Endless time has ended. Now the real life and death endgame begins. What to do? If I only knew. Welcome to the club of living in the moment and all the rest. Rationalization at its very best. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little lives are rounded with a sleep. So, moving from the micro personal world to the macro political world, here we go, Richard. There is this regarding the current state of affairs from W.B. Yeats. You know it. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man. A gaze, blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour now, come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. And now from the general state of affairs,
It was over, right?
and now from the general state of affairs,
Sorry.
I thank you.
Okay, good.
But I'm going to stay with the seriousness of this, to the specific horrors of recent Pittsburgh. A little something from old Germany, from someone who was there, who you may know. He's been mentioned in the news. It's not a great poem, but it will do. Martin Niemöller. First, they came for the socialists. And I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. And I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews. And I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak for me. So I tell you again, as I have at the end of so many of these things, remember never again. If not now, when? Thanks for listening.
Makes me think how at the end of this I need to go and check the election results and see what's going on. One thing I forgot to say before, Yash, you misspoke a phrase, and I loved it. You said escaping and comebacking. I love that. I wrote it down. I haven't ever actually written a poem in my life, but sometime I'm gonna use that somewhere, something, because that was just really neat. Even though I don't think it was intentional. So, last on the list, Gavin Winecoop Fisher.
Thank you. It's always good to be here and to hear all these awesome poems and experience this community. That's what it's all about. So you're in luck. I write a lot about death. It's one of my common themes, sadly. But writing is a good way to process death, and as part of having death touch my life in so many ways, there's a lot of other stuff that comes with that, depression being one of those things. And recently, my friend sort of coined this term. She referred to my depression as a dumb ghost. And first off, I thought that was hilarious, and yeah, it's funny. But I've started to think about that kind of concept of this ghost, of sort of being occupied by a ghost of myself, sort of a shade of who I am when I'm living most fully. And in an essence, when I'm extremely depressed, I essentially reject participating in life, and I think that's ghostly in a sense. But this friend of mine that coined that term, we were corresponding, and some of that was about some of these phases I go through, or moods, depressions, and she said it's kind of like holding her breath for me through those times, and till the ghost moves on, essentially, and that moved me deeply. That was so touching for me, and I think it touches on something that has come up thematically, and Yash talked about it. We sort of spoke something when we recall people's names, when we read their words, when we let their words and their thoughts and their names occupy our lungs, and their beings occupy our minds, we are prolonging their lives. And that's, I wrote this quick poem that kind of deals with those concepts rolled together. Isn't that what a ghost wants? To be remembered to someone's lungs, a name lingered over, a breath caught and cradled all the way past the last grave. If you ever held your breath going past a graveyard, that's sort of tied into there. But it's interesting, someone holding you in their breath. Yeah, I have another one. I'm gonna transition in a sec, but I'm gonna do one more. I lost my father in 2013. You could say depression took him. He jumped from the tower at Hubbard Park in Montpelier. This poem is about that. From this broken old tower, each cardinal direction beckons in gray-blue hues, promising distance, time, and tomorrows, but he chose none of those. Instead, he skipped the stairs like a stone plunging down into the most pure unknown. I think about potential energy, possessing power like a side effect of one's position in space, every part of you yet to be spent, an easy way out. I think of the straight lines, rays drawn from the center of gravity to the middle of a man, to the pulsing core of our planet. I think of all the bodies pulled with invisible strings to the bosom of oblivion. I think of Icarus and dusty old tomes, dead tongues muttering in catacombs, how even myths, gods, and fathers all eventually fall and die. I can use the last line of that. All these things pass eventually. And one thing that I currently feel the need to struggle against is the presence of patriarchy in our culture in a toxic way, in an awful way, in a way that embodies violence towards ourselves and towards each other, to extremes that we have to witness over and over again. I was fortunate to be born in a very privileged body, and I have struggled with that, and not as people struggle with different bodies, but with what to do with that privilege. I'm lucky to have found writing so that I have a platform to bring attention, because sitting in this room, we all enjoy privilege, and I would like to point out that some people do not. Last week I was doing 80 on 91 North, 15 over past cones, signs, warning, fines doubled in work zone. I am alone, and when the state trooper prowls onto the road in my rear view, my heart dips just a little. But it does not drown, does not rattle against my ribs, trying to escape like a desperate dove in a cage. My stomach shrinks, but it does not sink its teeth into itself like a last meal, like disrespected flesh that cannot be scalded away by any sobbing fixture, cannot be retched up later, gasping from some distant place, wounded inside. No, my soul, all my shine does not have to duck and cover, to hide, too afraid to be caught, thriving in some unsanctioned skin. When he reaches my window, I am calm as a duck pond at dawn, my bootstraps polished, pulled up, buckled tight with myths and privilege. I know this. My body will not awaken to slake his thirst, does not threaten his courage. So I sit upright, my whiteness draped over me like a flag of surrender, a banner of sameness. My penis is passive and rests lightly like a laurel branch somewhere below the blue collar that my car and I proclaim. And as I knew I would be, I am politely warned, dismissed. See, the boxes he checked for me did not drip with the sweat of extra shifts, did not pinch like bra straps straining, screaming that you keep yourself contained. The boxes did not squeeze like shrinking belts, tightening around hungry stomachs. They did not press heavily, constantly down with the heavy history of all that frosted glass. See, these boxes could never leer like a wolf at my body. These boxes don't translate to a gaze made to intimidate in the way it devours your pieces like bites of rare steak. Unshaken, my boxes are placid as old silver in drawers, heritage we'd never have to sell. See, the boxes officer-friendly checked for me would never send in his grimmer twin to stoically alert a shattering family. The boxes he checked had no tackle to toss ominous shadows, lines and snares dragging through the surface of my current fragile life. These boxes didn't leave anyone reeling. These boxes are quiet. They move silently like imagined halos sneering from podiums in courtrooms. They never click like cuffs or bite like a hook into my jaw. No, these boxes don't struggle. These boxes are a chance card, a more than fair stacked deck, go fish, monopoly on liberty. The cards that hardly ever read go straight to jail. These are the boxes for those who made the rules, for those who get enough sleep and never see the way the bloody funny money leaves stains on their hands and collects in their sheets. Collectively, these boxes read, I can breathe easily. They don't corner my being, life garnered away. They don't gasp like a fish flopped on a sidewalk. Don't panic like a throat against a nightstick, a strong arm or a hard dick. See, my car stinks, but not like coercion, not like salacious intimidation tactics. No vague scent of sex to sharpen Holt's claws predation upon, so he didn't check the glove box and find my spliff stash. I guess he didn't see my poverty as threatening. No, these boxes he checked did not hum like imagined evil mechanisms, misunderstanding churning beneath deep brown eyes, and a job, a turban. In spite of stacking statistics, my boxes do not mutter a word like terrorist. They don't buzz or echo like cold cold like doors with bars. These boxes did not swallow me whole, untried and unparoled, did not peel me from the sun layer by sinking layer like an ebony baby grand dropped in the darkest waters of Lake Michigan. No, the boxes he checked did not lock or cock like a weapon, did not fire like lead and hot fear through innocent flesh or slam shut like a coffin closing on another colorful life. No, none of the above. He handed back my passing grade. In this ailing land, on this pointless page, I guess I got an A. Because the boxes I checked were all the right ones. Straight, male, white, unfined. How those boxes make things simple. Just don't read between the battle lines. It goes, dear pale brother, take your slice of this freedom, take a bite, this sickly, soulless apple pie. Don't deny yourself the plunder of our bloody tyrant tribe. Do not squander what is generally granted. Hold your base, for now we give you time. But know your place, states the carbon copy paper, with a wink and wolfish smile. Know your place and eat your fill. Mind your business, boxes, lines. Know your place, the paper whines. Forget this blessed country. She's still shackled. She's still mine. Thank you. Is that time? I could do one more.
You could do one more, sure.
Okay. You guys like to go one
It's
more?
Yeah.
27th, but we're fine.
Okay.
Library closes at 8, we're good.
Okay. Well, yeah, that one's a lot of frustration, and thank you for staying with me through that. This is another frustrated one, and yeah, it deals with a lot of different themes. This is more of a spoken word piece than probably my previous ones, but I just want to make clear that I don't mean to disparage anyone's religious views. I speak to a certain type of person in this, and I just happen to mention a kind of religion. Okay. I just like to say this poem is about regret and, in a lot of ways, societal and personal, and it's directed specifically at men in general, the men in this country. It should hit like the shell already exists, a fragment of fate in a dark crate awaiting the day when it will fly through the atrium to semi-automatic shatter the spine of some middle school kid whose parents couldn't quite scrape the cash for that bulletproof backpack produced in mass by the same predatory soulless bastards who manufactured those bullets. It should hit like preventable violence, like 100,000 cries for help met with silence. Like maybe the villain could have been a hero if someone just listened. Maybe we could stem the flow of suffering if a river of blood wasn't still logged in like a capitalist wind. And always the question, where were those better men to benefit his betterment? Life's battered veterans stand vacant on the battlements. It should hit how they've been raising the dead-eyed youth on us and them, the short-sighted divisions, politicians pushing ice picks, apply pry bar pressure to the threadbare rift, test the thinning social fabric. It rips. Should hit like poisonous smokescreen eloquence, a malevolent parade of goddamn donkeys and elephants, racism-laced smoking guns and whitewashed bricks, the blunt sting of injustice. Let's face it, this country was built and made filthy rich to the bloody beats of cracking whips. Should hit like the thrice fractured right fist of the fear-stricken, self-proclaimed Christian caught between fake faith and cynicism, cultivating hate for his personal schism, as if this new Jesus gets a kick out of your commitment to bigoted mischief. Should hit like textbook impediments, history's omissions hobbling all forward movements. The corruption of innocence, the systematic failure of our basic institutions to properly prepare and protect its priceless students. Should hit like missionaries on ships equipped and aimed for war on foreign shores. This constant conflict of monotheists waving sabers and yardsticks like surely my God has the biggest dick. Should hit like insecurities hidden. Lock a room full of half men, pure sexual confusion, half jacked up on Ritalin, starving for acceptance or some simple validation, grappling with averages or, God forbid it, foreskin. Distinct lack of guidance doesn't take much convincing that their lives will be defined by a sum of fleshy inches. Should hit with impact. Like the slap on the front step of the girl whose heart I kicked for the last time, one day shy of Valentine's, because I convinced myself my own love was a lie. Like a complete lack of compassion, purely reactive and preoccupied with that path maladaptive modern masculine rites of passage. And the fact is, she would have had my kid. But when she dealt with it, I was absent. Because the last time we'd spoken, I whirled on her, my world a blur, pissed, hissed, kill that baby, venomous and dead drunk serious. Should hit like the empty seats of dead relatives, like that mannequin face carcass once raised us two kids, now full grown, full blown alcoholics. Should hit like the staggering starkness of the empty walled apartment of a man lost, broken and slipping into darkness, the pure powerful potential of vacuousness, the grimmest application of an ink dot on parchment, like what follows the punctuation stationed at the end of an obit. Should hit like internalized resentment. Like maybe it could have turned out different if I just admitted how much I still need him. Maybe the pretty promise of abyss could have been eclipsed by dismantling the standard American narrative, like fuck the construct of masculine. Dad, let's just live. It should hit that the choice was his and he didn't. It should hit with purpose. All of this important. So take a breath. Take aim into the pain, take stock of your regrets, because right now could be the moment when we begin to divest in our demons, in our fears, in this sickness systemic. We can still prevent the pain that we haven't fathered yet. I swear there's a little daylight left. Some fathers become stones still. The sum of sun is not quite set. Thank you.
I don't know what to say. This has been an amazing evening. There's been all sorts of fabulous stuff. Thank you, all of you, for being here.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Thank you.